This is lesson 2.5a. We are going to be finding the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane. You are going to need your notebook for this lesson, so please make sure that you're opening up your notebook to a new clean page, and we will be doing lesson 2.5a. So example 1 says that we're going to be finding the vertical distance. When you think about the distance of something, we're just going to be finding how much space is between 2 points. So what's the distance between the 2 points? Example 1 says, Tammy drew a map of her neighborhood. How far is it from Lee's house to school? So looking at this coordinate plane, the first thing that's important for us to identify is what is the scale here? If I just want to know how much one box is worth. So a big clue here is how they have a 5 on the coordinate plane. So how much is each box worth? Each box is worth 1. So that's the first thing that's always important for us to find, what the scale is here. So each box is worth 1. Now, they want us to figure out the distance between Lee's house and school. So looking at this coordinate plane, we have to find the blue dot here that represents the location of each of those locations. So we have Lee's house and we have the school there. And let's start by finding the ordered pair for Lee's house. So if I'm traveling from the origin from 0, 0, is to get to Lee's house, first will I be traveling left or right? I will be traveling left. How far left will I be traveling? I will be traveling left 4. So the first number in my ordered pair is going to be a -4. The negative sign tells us that you're going to be moving left. Okay, next on, so from the origin, we move left 4. Now we have to go up or down to get to Lee's house. We will be traveling down to get to Lee's house. How far down did we travel? We travel down 1, 2, 3, -3. So to get to Lee's house from the origin, first we traveled left 4, then down 3. The ordered pair would be -4, -3. Now we have to figure out the ordered pair for the school. So how do we travel from the origin to the school? What would the ordered pair be? So from the origin, we travel left 4 again. So my first number is going to be -4. Then I go up 2, so +2. So the ordered pair for the school is -4, 2. Now, I want to figure out here the distance between Lee's house and the school. So we are going to have to be crossing that x-axis, right? The x-axis which runs horizontally. We have to cross it to get from Lee's house to the school. Now, we also have to figure out the distance here. So we can use absolute value to help us find the distance between these 2 points. In order to find the distance between the 2 points, we're going to figure out, is it the x value or the y value that is changing? Well, when we look at Lee's house and the school, the y values, the -3 and the 2, are what is different. -4 stays the same. So we look at that -3 and 2, and we will be using that information and the absolute value to help us find the distance. So let's start by finding what is the absolute value of that y coordinate for Lee's house, or how far away is Lee's house from 0? How far away is Lee's house from that x-axis? So we would find what is the absolute value of -3. Then we will also have to find the distance now from that x-axis from 0 to the school. So now I'm going to be looking at that y coordinate for the school, that 2. So I will be having the absolute value of -3 and the absolute value of 2. Now, I have to figure out, am I going to be adding these two numbers or subtracting them? Well, from Lee's house to 0 will be the absolute value of -3. And then I have to move another 2. So do you think we will have to be adding these two numbers or subtracting them? We're going to have to add these two numbers. So you should absolutely have this written in your notebook so far. If you haven't been writing this in your notebook, please press pause and make sure that you have this line especially written in your notebook. We're finding the absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of 2. So, what's the absolute value of -3? Remember, absolute value is always positive. So, the absolute value of -3 will be 3. I'm writing it right underneath it. Plus, bring down that plus sign. What's the absolute value of 2? Well, the absolute value of 2 is going to stay the same. It's always positive. So, now I have 3 plus 2. Okay, well, I could solve this. What's 3 plus 2? 3 plus 2 is 5. Now, that tells us that the distance between Lee's house and school is 5 units here. We can check this since they have this beautiful map here for us on a coordinate plane. So we can check this by counting. Let's start from Lee's house and travel up to the school. How many boxes is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that checks. The distance between Lee's house and school is 5. Okay, now I want us to look at this grid here, and we're going to find the distance between points C and D. And I'm purposely have my little toolbar there covering up part of the grid because it tells us how to do the problem. So we are going to be looking at points C. So point C, which is at -4, -1, and point D, which is -4, -5. So again, we start by looking and seeing which coordinate is different. So here you can see that the x value is staying the same. Both x's are -4. And the y value here, one is -1 and one is -5. So if we are finding the distance between D and C, I want to see how far am I moving from point D to point C. So let's start by, starting at that y coordinate for point D, which is -5. So we're going to find the absolute value of -5. Remember, you should be writing this in your notebook. And then we'll be finding the absolute value of the y coordinate for point C, which is the absolute value of -1. Now, here is where we have to do a little bit of thinking. Before, when we traveled across the axis, so if you look at the distance between point A and point B up top, we traveled across it. So first you would have 3 boxes to get to Y, and then 4 the y-axis, and then 4 boxes to get to B. So we added them here. They are in different quadrants, so we add those numbers. Well, now points C and D are in the same quadrant. If they're in the same quadrant, we're going to subtract. So we find the absolute value of -5. Absolute value of -5 is 5. Minus, bring down that minus sign. What's the absolute value of -1? 1. So I subtract here. 5 minus 1 is 4. The distance between points C and D is 4. Now, I know that this whole am I going to add, am I going to subtract it, is a little tricky. Even when I was just explaining it, I was like, let me make sure I'm saying it right. But think about it on a coordinate plane. Or think about if we added them. If one y value is -1 and the other one is -5, you're not traveling across an axis. You're not going to be adding them. Even if there's not a graph here, you can sketch it. Okay, well, point C is going to be down -1. Point D is going to be down -5. What's the distance between those 2 points? I'm going to be subtracting them, not adding them. I'm not going across an axis. Let's just try one more. Let's look at number 4 here. So we have an ordered pair, -5, 2, and another ordered pair, -5, 6. So we're looking to see what's different here. The 2 and the 6 are different. So let's start with the absolute value of 6 and the absolute value of 6. And we're going to be doing something with the absolute value of 2 because those are the numbers that are different. The -5s are the same, so we're going to ignore that for now. So now our next step is to think, are we going to have to add or subtract these two numbers? Well, let's sketch it out. -5, 2. Okay, so that means I'm going to be moving left 5 up 2. -5, 6 means I'm going to be moving left 5 up 6. So in order to find the distance from these 2 points, they are in the same quadrant, I'm going to be subtracting. So the absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of 2 is 2. Let's subtract them. The absolute value will be 4.